Hello, 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 my beautiful people. How you all doing out there? I hope everyone is doing well. As for me, of course, no complaining. It gets your girl nowhere. I want to say welcome back to Sunshine on Wheels, the talk show. Today we have a very, very special guest all the way from Ohio. And let me tell you something. I was just talking to Elizabeth and she is very amazing. And I cannot wait for you all to hear her story. And I cannot wait for Elizabeth to share her journey and help encourage someone else out there. So, without further ado, let's welcome Miss Elizabeth. Yay! Hello,
Yay!
Elizabeth.
Hello, hello. Hi, everybody. So glad to be here.
Thank you very much for being a part of this show. Now, before I get started, I just want to give a little background about Elizabeth so some of us can know a little more about her. Elizabeth lives with a disability called cerebral palsy, also known as CP. Elizabeth is a college graduate who studies social work. Let me tell you all something. Elizabeth is amazing. She was also the winner of Miss Wheelchair of Ohio 2014, and she went on to run for Miss Wheelchair of America. But what's most important that I really love what I read about Elizabeth is that she is working to help advocate for those that live with a disability. And we all know in this community, we need as much advocates, we need as much help as we can get. And I want to say first, thank you, Elizabeth, for coming on the show. And thank you for advocating for those of us that live with a disability.
Oh, you're welcome. It's my pleasure. I feel that I'm not just helping myself, I'm helping the rest of our community out there because I know there are some people that they don't know what to advocate for or how to go about advocating. And I was fortunate enough that from a young age, my parents, especially my mom, told me that the only limits that I have are the limits that I put on myself. And she didn't like the fact that therapists and doctors from the get go would put limits on me because when you're first born with cerebral palsy, now they have a better idea of how it affects people. But like I was telling you earlier, it's a broad spectrum of a disability. So you could have 100 people all with cerebral palsy in the same room, and every single one of them has a different set of circumstances and a different way that it affects their body. So when doctors are trying to prepare parents for what to expect when their child is diagnosed with this, they literally don't know what to tell them. So a lot of times, especially back in the early 90s when I was born, and even earlier than that, because they had even less information back then, they give the
Mhm.
parents the worst case scenario all the way around. And if their child ends up doing better than that, then it's better for them. But it gives the parents the awareness to know it could be so bad that your kid may not be able to talk or whatever. And sometimes the way that they determine what you may or may not be able to do is by silly evaluations.
Mhm.
I guess one of them when I was younger, because I was diagnosed when I was about 18 months old, and
Okay.
uh, one of the therapists that I was seeing at the time told my parents that I would never be able to write my own name because of the way I was holding a spoon to feed myself.
Mm.
Based on that, they were basically figuring that I wouldn't be able to write my own name because I wouldn't be able to hold a pen. Um, but my mom got offended by that. She was like,
Yes.
"How dare you limit my child before you know what she's capable of?" So my mom refused to take that as the reality. So she pushed me a lot to, even in the stubborn times when I didn't want to do the therapy and I didn't want to do the things. And I'm very stubborn headed, so we were always butting heads. She was always like, you got to do this. And there's only so many times you can explain to a little kid that the stuff you're trying to make them do is going to benefit them later. It's not until later when you become an adult and you look back at that stuff that you realize that the stuff that you didn't want to do, that your parents made you do, had a benefit for you. And one of those times that I learned about those benefits was when I went to college, because originally I started going to college down in Dayton, excuse me, at
Yes.
Wright State University. And
Okay.
that school is especially known for people to who have disabilities. They have adaptations there at that school. All of the
Okay.
academic buildings were connected by underground tunnels, so that you could actually go all the way down to the basement of any of the buildings and travel to the next building without going outside. Which, when
Hmm.
you live in Ohio and have the crazy weather that we have, that benefits, because if it's raining or snowing, it's hard to get a wheelchair through the rain and snow.
Right.
So it was nice to be able to navigate that without having to worry about that. But a lot of my friends who started college around the same time that I did, that also had disabilities, their parents stayed with them for the whole weekend, the whole first weekend into the first week of classes, to help them train their uh, aides and personal care
Okay.
attendants. Whereas I had started getting personal care attendants when I was still in high school, so that my mom could show me how to. She had me basically explain to them how I needed things done and what I
Right.
needed done. And she was there in case I wasn't explaining it clear enough, so she could
Okay.
come into the room and clarify it. But she allowed me to do it. So then when I got to college and it was time to do that on my own, they didn't have to stay to help me navigate that, because I already knew what to do. And a lot of the older upperclassmen at the school, they said that they thought my parents were being mean, because my
Mm.
parents moved me into the dorm, set up my dorm room the way that I needed it for my wheelchair and my medical equipment, and then they left that
Okay.
same day while everybody else was staying, and left me to teach my aides and everything by myself. And they thought that my parents were being mean. And
Mm.
I tried to even explain to them then, I already know how to do this. And they looked at me like I had two heads, because they're so used to the normal process of, when parents drop their disabled child off at school, they stay for the first
Mhm.
however long, because they want to make sure that their child is adjusted. But my parents knew that they had worked with me enough in high school and leading up to that point, that they could drop me off like any other kid without a disability, and that I would be able to navigate it. And if there were things that I didn't know how to navigate, that I would figure it out.
That's right. And you know what? I want to say something there because what you touched on is very important, Elizabeth, because I'm proud of your parents. And I want to say they did a excellent job because I understand where they were coming from. They wanted you to be able to be independent with your caregivers. They wanted you to be able to explain to your caregivers how you wanted care because they know that at the end of the day, it will be you and your caregiver there, and they won't be there. So they were actually helping you with becoming independent in a way. I agree.
Yeah. I mean, at the time, like I said, when I was younger, I thought my mom was being mean or just a pain,
Mhm.
especially when she pushed me to do all the stretches and stuff. But considering that I was born with my disability, if I didn't do all those stretches, I could be so tight that I'm not able to move.
Right, right. Hmm. That's really awesome. And you know what, Elizabeth? I can relate to you. Although I wasn't born with my disability, it happened later on in life. But my mom was like a big support to me, with like telling me that I need to start talking with women that live with disabilities. I need to have friends and things like that. To get around people that are just like me so that I can be able to have friends and also be able to help myself and learn from others that live with a disability. So I can agree with your parents 100%. I absolutely agree. Absolutely. And I want to say hello, Andrea Summers. Thank you very much for tuning in.
That's
Thank you
actually
very
my
much.
husband. That's Andre. That's
Andre. Okay, sorry, Andre Summers. Thank you very much for allowing your wife to be interviewed with me today. Thank you very much, sir. Thank you very much and welcome. Okay, Elizabeth. Now I love that you have a support that came from your parents to teach you that hey, if we're here or not, you'll be able to still take care of yourself. You'll be able to still tell your caregiver how to help you with your day to day needs. I love that. Now, has there been a time when you felt as though I can't do this? I want to give up and go home. I don't want to be here. Have you ever felt that way while in college?
yeah, but I ended up about 4.5, 5 years into my college experience at Wright State. I ended up running into medical issues, and I've been lucky that I didn't have seizures from birth, which can sometimes happen with people that have CP. Um,
Okay.
but I started to notice that I was developing these episodes that I would just black out and like not remember anything.
Mm.
And I didn't know what it was, and got to the point where I went to a neurologist down in the Dayton area, and he did the usual EEGs and such to look for possible seizure activity. And he kept saying that the EEGs were coming back normal, but he could see that I was clearly having these episodes because I was documenting them, and I had friends documenting them. So
Good.
we knew that something was going on, but he didn't understand why nothing was showing up on the EEG. So
Mm-hmm.
he ended up putting me on anti seizure medication anyway. Well, a side effect of that anti seizure medication was that I lost my appetite. So it got
Really?
to the point where, and I'm a big foodie, I like food.
Me
Any
too.
The only food that I don't really eat is like, I'm kind of picky when it comes to spinach and when it comes to like avocados. But aside from that, I'll pretty much eat anything you put in front of me. Um, so it was to the point where I wasn't eating hardly at all, and in order to get any nutrients in, I
Mhm.
was getting like the Ensure shakes or the Boost shakes, and drinking like one or two of those a day just to get some kind of nutrients in. And it
Mhm.
got to the point where I couldn't drive my power wheelchair because I was dizzy.
Wow.
And I was like, and obviously as a result, I'm missing a bunch of classes, and my GPA was going down, and they weren't really able to help because at that school they said we can't really do anything about the professor's attendance policies because we're not allowed to
Mm.
mess with those. So I was like, I'm gonna end up failing out of school because I'm having these medical issues
Ish. Mhm.
and I can't get help with the attendance policy, and because I'm missing so much class,
Right.
even if I'm doing the work, I'm still gonna fail out. And
Mhm.
so I ended up finally being like, I can't do this without family around, because with
Okay.
me being down in Dayton, my family is from northeastern Ohio, so they were 3.5 hours away from me. when I went to school down there.
Wow.
So once my
Okay.
parents
Okay.
left, I was on my own. Like they would come down for visits and
Yes.
I would come back up for visits for the
Right.
holidays and stuff. But when it came to the day to day, it was me handling
Everything.
everything for the day to day myself.
Mm-hmm.
So I finally decided that I wanted to transfer to the University of Akron. So I put in the paperwork to get a medical leave of absence from school from Wright State. So basically, so that the current classes I was taking would not be put on my transcript and affect my GPA to the point where it was too low to transfer.
Right.
And then I came back home and started at the University of Akron that next January. But it was difficult because I was frustrated because
Mm-hmm.
I kept having these episodes and they kept giving me this medication saying that the medication should help, but the medication wasn't helping and it was reducing my appetite. And the doctor at one point said, if you have side effects where it's reducing your appetite, let me know and I'll reduce the medication that you're on. Well, when I
Okay.
went to him and told him that before I came home to Akron, he increased the medication instead of decreasing it, which didn't make any sense to me.
No.
And I eventually had all my records transferred back home and
Mm-hmm.
went to see a neurologist in the Akron area. And he looked at all my previous records, and I told him some stuff about past things that had gone on that had happened to me, experiences in college and such. And he said, okay, I want you to try something for me and we'll see if this works. If it doesn't, then I'm going to have you admitted to the hospital for an overnight EEG so we can
Okay.
see what's going on because the regular EEG isn't picking up anything. And I said, okay. He goes, I think you have pseudo seizures. And at first it made me mad. I'm like, are you saying I'm faking this? He's like, no, 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 no. Whatever
Okay.
is going on with you is a real thing that's happening. But I
Okay.
think that instead of it being an actual seizure, it's something else related to the trauma that you've been through that you haven't processed. And I think if you go to counseling and process that trauma, that you'll see these episodes just stop without
Wow.
any medication or anything. Because he's like, if it was an actual seizure, we would see some kind of activity in your brain, and we're not. He goes, there's a chance that if this doesn't work, that yes, you are having actual seizures and we need a more detailed EEG to see it. So I was
Mm-hmm.
like, okay. So I ended up going to counseling and doing some cognitive behavioral therapy with a lot of
Mm.
the trauma and a lot of the stuff that I had pushed down. And even some of it was stuff that had happened like years before
Yes.
in high school and stuff that I experienced that I just like, okay, this just comes with the territory of what I'm
Mm-hmm.
facing. So I just have to, you know,
Deal
deal
with
with
it.
it and move
Mm-hmm.
on. Because I was just, my mindset was I just got to keep going till I get to where I want to be. And
Yes.
I don't know the definition of take a break
Mm-hmm.
or anything like that. I always got to be doing something.
Mm-hmm.
So, um, after I did this counseling for about a month, and I was skeptical, thinking that this doctor's just trying to blow me off, all of a
Okay.
sudden, these episodes just completely vanished. Like, never happened again. And I was like, huh, interesting. So then
So.
I had stopped going to counseling again once I got to a stable place. But then,
Mm-hmm.
about, I want to say a year ago in August,
Mm-hmm.
I had been working at my job as a behavioral health clinician in
Okay.
which is basically another term for a counselor. And I
Okay.
just had so much going on with me personally that I had a mental break. And my husband and my caretakers at the time, they were like, you need to, we know you love your job and we're not telling you to quit, but we honestly think that you need to take a vacation. You've been working
Oh,
at this job for over a year and you haven't taken any form of vacation. And
okay.
I'm sure that if you tell your boss you're reaching burnout, your boss is going to tell you the same thing and they'll figure it out.
Right,
So I finally gave in and took 2 months off and got myself back into counseling just to get myself back
right,
straightened out again. And if it wasn't for them being more stubborn than I am and saying it's okay for you to step away, because initially when they were talking to me about it, I dug my heels in and I was like, no, I'm not doing that. I'm not quitting on my people because my clients depend on me.
right,
And I
right.
felt a responsibility for them and to be there for them. And Lisa, she's the owner of the care company that provides my staff. She is also like a second mom. And
Okay,
she looked at me and she said, how can you be there for your clients if mentally you're breaking down and you're falling apart? You can't be there for
absolutely.
other people if you're not there for yourself first.
I
And
I agree with Lisa. I agree. She's absolutely right.
it took me a while to get in because I always looked at it as if I stop, then I'm proving the people right that said I wouldn't be able to do it. And my husband, Dre, I love you so much. I know you still watching. I'm saying this right now. He is amazing and the most supportive person ever. He is like, you don't realize that you're proving people right by continuing to go like that because you're burning
Mhm.
yourself out and you're bringing your limits up before you even reach those limits, because you're making those limits come up sooner because you're exhausting yourself in your
Yes,
body. And the big thing of having to understand that my body has limits
right.
is really hard because I'm like, limits, what limits, whatever, and I just want
You
to keep
going.
pushing through and keep
Mm-hmm.
going and be like, I can do this. And that's why one of my, I don't know if you've ever heard the song Tell Me No by Whitney Houston.
Yes.
That is one of my life theme songs.
Oh, that's your
Because
go-to. Okay.
if anybody looks at me and says you can't do this because of your disability or whatever their reason is, my first instinct isn't to hear that. My first instinct is to go, watch me. And I'm going to figure out a way to prove you wrong and show you that I can do it. And it's really interesting how it goes like that when people think, oh, you're telling me the good thing by telling me I can't do this because I might hurt myself or whatever. But in reality, what you're doing is you're putting a challenge in my head to say, you think I can't do this, but in my head, I'm trying to find a workaround.
Okay, we do have some comments here that I want to read.
Okay.
Okay. So let's read some of the comments we have here. Thank you very much, Andre. And let's go back. All right. Can you hear me? Okay.
Yes.
Okay, good. You can hear me. Good.
Yep.
You can. Oh. How about can you hear me now, Elizabeth?
Yes, I can hear you.
Uh-oh, I can't hear you, Elizabeth.
Oh, no.
I can't hear. Oh boy.
Hello?
Let's go out and I'm going to come back in. I can't hear you.
Okay.
Okay, let's see here.
Not sure what happened. I don't know if you guys can hear me or not, but she said she couldn't hear me, so she's bringing it back up, I think. I don't know what happened. Oh, she sent me another link. Hold on, guys.